felicitate?
I'd like to ask Shreya to felicitate Dr. Majid. Thank you, and I request Dr. Majid to now start with his speech.
Good evening. This was not really a long scheduled talk because I guess I am speaking in an economic conclave for the first time and possibly for the last time. This is my last year at IIFT. So I was not really prepared for this. One day I met some of the students in the evening, and once they found that I'm back, they said that, okay, I should give a talk. And I feel that it's a very energized group, and so I could not decline their request, but they did not actually specify the topic that I'm going to talk on, which I only saw when they gave me the notification. So it has war, it has political instability, and it has international trade. So it's almost like the speech of the Chief of United Nations. So it's very difficult for me to do justice to such a topic, I must say. But I am more relieved because this is one of the talks in this gathering or in this event which is not based on Jones 1971. So the question is, I don't need to define these three things. I mean, we know what war is all about. We know political instability, what potentially it means. And by this time, I and most of you have known a bit of international trade. So we don't need to define these three elements. But the interesting part of it is that when I tried to look into some of the literature on these three things together, I found that there is substantial literature on political instability and trade, and there is substantial literature on political relations and trade, and also there are papers on estimating the impact of war on trade. Because the economists usually do not let go topics that they can write on. So, and I'm not going to sort of give you a survey of this topic, but there is a paper called Collateral Damage, Trade Disruption and the Economic Impact of War by Alan Taylor and Reuven Glick as a Fed Reserve Bank of San Francisco paper. And what they do, finally, they find the large persistent impacts of wars on trade and hence the national and global economic welfare. And some of this, so they have studied the data set from 1870 to 2002 or 2003 with all kinds of wars that the world has faced, and they found tremendous impact on disruptions on trade. Now, the very act of doing this estimation can be extremely engaging, but as a result, it does not give us a lot of surprise. If somebody says the wars did not have any impact, it would have been interesting, but actually it had. Then there is an interesting journal which writes on political relations and GDP and trade and political. This interesting journal is called Journal of Shipping and Trade. You never know that the Journal on Shipping and Trade would be, and they discuss impulse response functions of political relation, and they found a very interesting outcome, which is interesting. That their main subject matter is China, US-China relations, and they said that if there is a good shock, then it goes for a long time. If it's a bad shock, it also goes for a long time. So it's persistent. So actually, so the bad political impact is persistent. If it's a good political impact, it is also persistent. And that they can find out by appropriate dynamic models of this thing. There's an interesting paper by someone named Caffrey in 2019 in which he talks about, and that's really interesting, he said that political instability, that's why it is interesting. Political instability increases probability of foreign market entry. So he talks about this well-known Venice model and shows that if you have political instability, then greater chances that you will export. Now that is an interesting outcome. Why is it an interesting outcome? Because political instability must be having some sort of a negative connotation. You know, it's unstable, it's unrest, it's unrestful, it's bad. But suddenly you find that exports are stimulated by that, and it's a fairly exhaustive work with lots of empirical data and so on. I'm not going to discuss that. So I'm going to focus on what does political instability do to trade, can potentially do to trade. Whether war, if you really talk about Ukraine-Russia war, that war is just, it's very recent. It's as if we talk about these things as if it's the most recent movies in the system, like Russia and Ukraine war. And India would never say that it has been bad for India. So basically, in a way, it's a war is bad. We know it is bad because essentially it takes lives. How can it be good? But the question is that the benefits and costs are unevenly distributed. So if it's a cost to European people, it's a benefit to at least to Indian politicians, and of course to us because we didn't have to bear the brunt of very high, gasoline prices or something like that. So it's not very easy to say that what war has in store, because we have not seen real war, because it's essentially World War I or World War II, where every country was affected, particularly in World War II, where people were not talking about trade that much. They're talking about major, destruction of lives. That is one, and then in the meantime, between the first and the second, we had recession and so on, and then we had this idea that where the beggar guy never became the most important policy. Foreign trade multiplier. Most of you have studied that. So, if I can export more, I get more income, and you don't get more income. I mean, if you are forced to import more, then it's a leakage, so it's bad. So there is no unifying theory as to say, for example, during war, countries which are selling arms and ammunition and different forms of combat, they are gaining a lot. This is all this, American and French and British, Air Force materials and so on. These are very well-known things, and we know that if we can have a war somewhere far and distant from your own place, you actually gain, because you have multiplier effects in your economy. So that is there. But I take a different route. And I don't have much time, and I don't want to have much time because there must be other things in the valedictory session. So, if somebody asks this question to students or just for contemplation, that what political instability should do to international trade. So, I'm restricting myself to this question of how does political instability affect international trade? How should it affect international trade? With very rudimentary definition of political instability. The political instability, as we economists understand, happens because or reflects in terms of frequent regime switch, for example, political instability, so that some government comes, then that government is driven out, so the next one comes, then the old one comes, there is a military coup maybe, and then something. So things are volatile. And the most important consequence of that is essentially this very difficult to write contracts. The contracts are not credible. And if contracts are not credible, because you do not know what is going to happen tomorrow or day after or next year, it's very difficult to do business. And international trade is a part of business, so trade will be affected. Now, political instability is very likely to affect trade. So we'll come back to the other empirical fact that has been proved that political instability is leading to more exports. We can talk about that a little later. And another reflection of outcome of political instability may be it's sheer chaos. Chaos means it's reflected in both in loss in production and loss in demand. Because as economists, we understand these two core concepts of demand and supply. So on one side, chaotic political situation may have negative impact on demand. It can have negative impact on production and supply. That is possible. Now, if contracts are difficult to implement or the contracts are not credible, then volume of trade would fall, like any volume of business transaction. And that you can actually see that it does happen. It's a great example, as someone already wrote about it, which paper I forgot, is Pakistan. Pakistan's recent problems, etc. You know what happened to Pakistan. The same problem actually happened to Sri Lanka also. That there were problems of credible contracting because the credibility of the government was at stake. And that's why the government was almost at peril, like Pakistan, like Sri Lanka. So you can see that. But interestingly, from a trade theoretic perspective, not really from a specific trade theoretic perspective, but general trade theoretic perspective, what would you think would happen to exports and imports? Very simple way of looking at it is that if production is curtailed and demand is also curtailed, then if production is curtailed more than demand, then exports would fall. If that was a surplus that you are actually exporting. But if production actually doesn't fall that much, but the demand falls, then you will have exportable surplus. More exportable surplus that you can export. This is the idea, I think, the paper that Capri actually talks about is pure empirical paper, but the question is that if you have a model of trade, be it Hexer-Ohlin or be it Merritt's type of a model, where you can actually show that there are farms whose production base have not been affected by political instability, but which has been affected is part of demand or something like that, then the surplus would be there. So in the case of Hexer-Ohlin, you would have a surplus that you can trade. But in case of Merritt's, there is an interesting thing, because you have fixed costs that you want to enter the market. So in that case, if there is political instability generated costs, then only less efficient farms will go out of the market. And more efficient farms may actually can find a better way of actually exporting that is not very unexpected. So the question is that political instability depends on the nature of instability. What you mean by instability can affect your production, it can affect your demand. And therefore, there is no guarantee that these two components are symmetrically affected. And if they are not symmetrically affected, you can actually increase even share of trade in GDP. So these issues need to be discussed if one needs to be seriously considering the actual outcome of instability on volume of trade, pattern of trade, and so on. What you need is to define instability and do that. One way of doing it is like instability is volatility, and the easiest way to measure volatility is actually through variance. The variance would mean that this, basically each firm can have an approach in which there is some degree of risk aversion, and you can think of mean variance kind of a model, where you can see that if there is greater variance, then you need higher return on the expected return to compensate for that. So in that sense, the firms which can guarantee higher return would stay in the market, which cannot, they will not stay in the market. So there will be some sort of market churning or market reshuffling that can happen. This is one aspect of what political instability, war, or economic slowdown can how they can impact trade. But now I shall deviate a bit from the topic because that is what is really interesting. And if I was to design the topic, I could have given a twist to that. So the thing is, why do we go to war? We go to war. It is possible that we go to war because if we don't go to war, there is political instability. And this political instability actually affects the reigning political powers. So one great benefit of getting into skirmishes, battles, border disputes, war, and so on is to distract people from the real problems in an economy. So the question is that war itself is an endogenous outcome. And as I understand, it has a lot of moral hazard inputs because every political leader would try to blame the leader of the other country. But when both of them are doing it because to save their back, because they have done in both countries, they have actually done the damage they want to rectify and divert people's opinion to other places, but they would actually proclaim how bad the other country is and the leadership is. So essentially, every statement made by anyone, and particularly by political leaders, are often marred with a lot of moral hazard issues. Now, this is the economist way of saying that nobody is speaking the truth. So that's essentially. So war is the thing is that how war is related to political stability, instability. War can lead to political instability in the system, but potential political instability can be avoided. Now, political instability, is it good? Is it bad? If political instability is always bad, then the best state of affairs must be status quo. Do you like status quo all the time? We don't. So this whole issue of using certain terms which are loaded with sentiments, emotions, interpretation, subjectivity, and so on, make very difficult for us to actually theorize something, to interpret something in a particular way. So that is one problem. That is, if war is a response to potential political instability, then political instability will lead to war. If it is not, and war is like a kind of a spontaneous movement, then war can lead to political instability also. So there are very interesting issues. I believe that how trade is affecting political instability is an interesting issue also, because I give this example to many of my listeners that, or I would say, on occasions where I have to give a talk somewhere, was about that China is India's one of the major trading partners. Now, this statement does not refer, or this statement does not say anything about local. Neither it says anything about that Indian soldiers or Chinese soldiers were engaged in skirmishes of all kinds. Still, China is either second and third largest trading partner. So you will find that economics or trade or business go the same way, except sometimes you find that Chinese investments in this country are being stopped, at least in some apps or so on. Now, China does not allow some of the exports to happen from India, and now I know one of these products that India cannot export, which does not require a lot of discussion here, the animal feed and so on. I'm indirectly involved now in putting it on the export list. But the point is that China-India trading relation, that China and India are engaged in India runs a deficit with China, significant deficit, but India doesn't run that much deficit with United States or Europe. So basically, the whole world thinks that China is, I would say, major part of the rich countries, I would say all rich countries possibly, in some way or the other thinks that China is not a friendly state. And they try to find out India as their diplomatic alternative. But India and China has remarkably strong international trade relations. So you see, the relationship between the political relationship and economic relationship, they are not very linear, because there are other parties involved in the system. So, but this was not the case maybe 200 years ago, 500 years ago, because we are not trading so much extensively among ourselves and so on. So in some ways, this India-China relation is reflective of, the relation is very stable. It is reflective of economic considerations, things that they have to do because that's what their business entrepreneurs think are right. And the government is not doing things which are way different from how the citizens are thinking. So that is there. Now, since all the parliamentarians are back, so we can be more diplomatic in terms of using the term parliamentarians or political leaders and so on. But actually, the whole question is, war may lead to instability, no doubt about that. And instability may lead to lower amount of trade, but that relationship is not so linear. So if somebody asks you, will political instability cause less trade or more trade and so on, like all economists, we should say that we have two hands. So we will always remember that we have the other hand also. And that's why even Mr. Churchill did not like us simply because we had another hand. Because they said that anytime the economists were supposed to give an answer, they would always say on one hand this and on the other hand the other thing. They said, give me one-handed economist or something like that. So, but like in that tradition, I can tell you I should finish because people's representatives are around. So I should say that it's not a linear relationship. So since you have studied international trade, try to be objective. Even if these words look very majestic and extremely serious and loaded, war, instability, and trade. But if you put it in terms of simple theoretical model, their stature gets diminished and things get diluted. And that's what economics as a subject allows us to do. Thank you very much.
Can I go down and sit?
I'd like to thank sir for such an insightful session. I'd like to. Any questions, anyone?
Oh, yes. There are questions.
For the talk, sir. So my question was, so what you said was there is some bidirectionality between trade and GDP, but also, do you think that it is almost instantaneous in the way? So if there is political stability in this period, will we see a trade shock in this period, or is there some lag that we can also expect in the system?
Hey, how to switch it on? Oh, yes. No, it is always
Yeah, I am not saying that this would be instantaneous or there will be a lag or something. I'm almost saying that actually there may not be, what we mean by political instability. For example, a country like India, there are pockets of instability always. They're here and there and everywhere. There might be some instability. But you could see that trade is so resilient. And even when China and India are fighting over the borders, China still continues to be the major trading partner of India. So in some sense, economic relationships are quite resilient. They don't change overnight. And both China and India, in some broad sense, are very stable as countries. In spite of they have all kinds of things going on between them, sometimes good, sometimes bad. But the trade data show that they are extremely resilient actually. But this type of relationship may not exist between, for example, Iran and Israel, for obvious reasons, or between US and Iran. Somehow, with respect to India, on many occasions, although there have been occasions that sanctions have been imposed or this thing, but in post-independence history of India has always been that somehow this trade situation has been very resilient, provided the government allowed trade to happen. There was a time when the tariff was 280%, and we didn't allow trade to happen. But when they allowed, it is quite resilient.
So just one follow-up.
Yeah.
So in that case, is resilience in that sense? So India and China are big trading partners already, but in the case of US and Iran, there isn't much trade that happens anyway. So in the case of sudden peace or easing of tensions, would it still remain like? Would we still not see that big of a shock?
One thing I must state that the current foreign policy of India that you see is very different from what it used to be, let's say, 50 years ago. Now, there can be valid judgments, but the point is that actually now it's a declared policy for India to see where India can make a gain in terms of its economic benefits. And India being a large country, big country, and doing more or less okay, and in some sense, it is roughly peaceful. It's not Middle East. So India can implement that, and on top of that, the Western countries consider India as an alternative to dictatorial China. So all of this, do not trouble India that much. So economic resilience ultimately, prevails in some sense or other.
Yes, 2 points there. Actually, one thing is that, so your point that, so going for trade is better than for political instability. That remains the classic example once we use, often we use free trade versus restrictive trade and business dilemma kind of situation. And the other thing, probably that you said that, trade is leading to, political instability is leading to trade war. So is it kind of, the classic transfer problem that has been explained by Professor Ronaldo. And economic and political instability, there's a fear of war. So I'm buying arms and ammunition from other countries. So it is like your aid, and that country is importing more of my goods. So is it kind of that thing? I mean,
Yes, you are absolutely right. I mean, I have not discussed transfer problem because actually transfer problem was generated by when US had to give things to Germany because they actually won the war. And so it is possible that I am giving you aids and so on so that you buy my arms. And this has been a tendency in the world at large. So that's there, and we did not discuss that. But between US and China, if you look at again the type of trade to GDP ratio and things like that, every tariff, every kind of little things are announced in a big way because those things could never tarnish the relationship. Because most of the US companies wanted to invest in China, they stayed back in China and so on. But US had to demonstrate, they have to demonstrate their anti-Chinese position. Because otherwise people of US would ask questions because so many things they buy from the Chinese and it's cheap. In fact, one of the statements I'll tell you, there was a big survey as to what US people think about tariffs on Chinese goods. Now, even the workers, non-workers, which workers would actually want tariffs because that will protect American jobs and wages. But these ordinary households, who buy cheap Chinese products, they know that the US products are more expensive. The survey goes there, they said, no, we should impose tariff from China. Now, so the surveyor means the professor was asking, I had no clue why they were saying that. Because the propaganda was so much, publicity was so much, they said everything that is happening wrong in US is due to China. So it's very difficult to say whether logic is being followed. But I believe that if you take the data on big countries, more successful relatively this century, you'll find that relationship between trade and commerce, the relationship remains quite stable and quite resilient. But political situations and all kinds of other disturbances can be very cyclical, kind of cyclical or something like that.
So I have understand. With this political instability, recently US has come up with a new concept called friendshoring in GVC. So that means they are not going to interested to do much trade with the kind of an enemy state, but they will remain with their most friendly. But how would you like to put this in horizon?
I put it exactly like a very standard ordinary trade economist. I see all these things, friendshoring and making. At one time it was made in USA, now made in India, and all those things. Actually, these are contrary to the free market hypothesis. These are contrary to the cost minimizing or welfare maximizing stances. So these ultimately hurt people. As simple as that. You have to produce and trade and export what you are good at doing. And the question is, friendshoring means I am the guy who is going to decide who's the best friend of US. Now, thank God, Indian government at least not saying that we have these friends and these are enemies, so we have a comparative disadvantage. So basically, we are going to trade comparative product and we have comparative disadvantage with the friends. So thank God that Indian government is pro-business to some extent. They understand business probably too much, but still, that is the better thing than US because these are all knee-jerk reactions. Because Trump is sniffing on the shoulder. This is Joe Biden is almost acting like Trump. So you have to just see how the election is over. I do not know the outcome, I do not know. But what will happen? Everybody is now after China. Now, all these technologies were given to, were actually transacted properly by the American multinationals with China. And now suddenly they woke up. So I do not know what plays around in their mind. But I believe still that what I believe is that these are all cyclical fluctuations. You will find that economic resilience reigns supreme in this world. Otherwise, countries cannot progress.
but the relationship is non-linear.
Yes.
If you start a sanction, then trade will go down.
So yes,
if after a point,
I said not linear,
if the political relationship deteriorates after a point, then trade will go down. So
yeah,
initially yes,
but tell me where you can see permanent sanctions. Tell me where you can see economies going down the drain with permanent sanctions. It can only go down the drain if it's either a small country or if you didn't have a very good trade relation with this country. Typically, there is a lot of status quo that starts happening because big countries means that you think European Union, US, Japan, India, China. If you take this hemisphere of countries, you will always find that actually Russia is an exception. Is an exception because still it's not Soviet Union anymore.
And also Iran.
Iran, Israel, US, they have got something which we all know that it's beyond economics. But usually, if there is a way that you can make money and be better off, it's very difficult that we will do otherwise.
Sir, I was asking, in the next 10, 20 years, do we see trade, the pattern of major trading, is it between superpowers like nations or more in terms of trading blocks? Like, is political competition more important, say China, India, US, or any other countries that are coming up, or political cooperation in terms of forming blocks and then trade?
No, these days, as you can see, we are more into bilateral negotiation. So FTA is the order of the day. And when there is FTA, it is very difficult to see two major countries actually becoming partners in a bloc. That is no wonder that India actually came out of RCEP. But the question is basically bilateral. So WTO has lost its charm as much as it used to have. But if situations are so bad that you have many, two country blocks and each fighting against each other so much that actually the world thinks that we need to something. But usually, I think just wait because it's very difficult to predict. But just wait. This is the time of FTAs, not even RTAs actually. This is the time for FTAs, which when we studied economics, we wanted to move away from FTA to WTO, but now it is the time for FTA. So let's see what happens. I cannot predict what's going to happen.
Any more questions?
Oh, yes.
With this, the new speech.
So as in your speech, as you said that the trade relationship between India and China is not so sour as it seems politically, geopolitically, but the trade relations between India and China are not so because the export figures are nearly around 100 billion. If we take into consideration all the sectors, it nearly comes down to 100 billion. I think it was for the fiscal year 22-23. But if suppose India now decides that unprecedentedly that it will stop their exports to China, they will stop their trade relations to China. So don't you think that the schemes of the government, like the Make in India, Bharat, Make in India, and the allied schemes for the production proposed by the government is enough to balance the gap if it arises so?
It is difficult to say whether it will. But let me tell you that why I am circumspect, because the investment rate of India right now, public plus private divided by GDP, is around 30%, a little less than 30%. Yeah, China is 45 plus. And India's 30% was stagnant for the last 3 decades. So it's not a fault of the current government. The last government also had 30% close to that. So Indians are not investing. Corporate India is remarkably bad in actually everybody talks about they are investing, but when you divide it by the GDP, their investment rate will fall down. So the question is, China is continuously investing. It is remarkable. China, even in this so-called recessionary situation, so you have to invest. Otherwise, how can you compete with China? We are importing even the images of Ganesh, synthetic Banaras. You go to, near, Near Benares, there is a Lahota. There is a very local market where they sell the cheapest Banarasis, and the Banarasis are very popular there. So you want to buy local made Banarasi sari. These people, the traders would say, Madam, why are you buying this? I've got fantastic synthetic Banarasi saris. So it has beautiful looking saris, all imported from China. So if we cannot produce our own Banarasi sari, then how we can produce things that we can compete with China? It's very difficult. So you have to understand why China has a remarkable array of technologies so that they produce the same product at different prices for different countries.
Sectors need to integrate because indigenous production alone cannot become for this huge input.
So we have to invest in technology. We have to invest. Without investment, we cannot get there. That is very simple.
We won't be taking any more questions. I'd like to thank Sir for such an insightful and delightful session. Please give a round of applause for Dr.
Okay, thank you very much for this nice invitation.
I'd like to call Rajan Sir on stage to felicitate Sir.
Oh, I have to be felicited again.
I'd like to take a moment to thank Dr. Rangarajan, our center head, for being present amongst us here today. Please give a loud round of applause for welcoming him. Anandini, I now request you to come to the stage.
Good evening to one and all present here. I, Nandini Sen, on behalf of the organizing committee, IIFT Annual Economics Conclave 2024, welcome you all to the closing ceremony. As we come to the culmination of the conclave, I stand before you with a heart filled with gratitude and admiration for the incredible journey we have experienced over the past 2 days. First, I would like to call upon Dr. K. Rangarajan, Professor and Center Head, IIFT Kolkata, to felicitate him on stage. So please. I would request Anna to speak to felicitate Dr. K. Rangarajan. Sir, I would request you to say a few words because without your guidance and support, the conclave would not have taken the shape that it has today.
Thank you. Very good evening to the faculty and the students who are present over here. But I am very happy to see the success of this conclave. See, when we conduct conclave seminars, etc., it is not only about what transfers, what kind of knowledge exchange which is happening within the halls. It's also more about the kind of energy what you create within the campus that motivates more and more such activities to happen. So I'm very glad to see that this year there was a huge energy in the campus when this conclave was happening. And I'm thankful to the students and the committee members who are making it more and more energetic. So first, my thanks to those students who are leading this conclave. In fact, I was listening to the IIFT has gone through all the three phases. In fact, IIFT is an institution which is a witness to the three different phases. Till 90s, we were more talking about how to protect. After 90s, till I would say mid 2000, we were talking about how we can be more and more liberal. Now we are talking about how we can be selectively liberal. So all the three phases, in fact, the questioning were also, I was just thinking about that. We are a witness to it. So it's more about the theory also, the theory and the concept. I think probably the economic theories and the concepts. I always felt that the businessman's business logic, in fact, sometimes fail a lot of policies also, which may be endorsed. It's a lot of conviction through the different concepts. So it was nicely putting all those kind of exceptions which happen. The only worry is, are these exceptions are going to be more and more and jeopardize some of the interests of a region or certain countries? Probably these conclaves, in the light of the emphasis what has been now given on technology and sustainability, I hope they'll take cognizance of those issues also in the years to come to be part of the agenda. I'm also happy that from IIFT, especially from Calcutta, we did a lot of first things, right? So one of the first things what we had is IIFT launched from Calcutta. The conclave idea started, I think, from Calcutta. So I think this is the third edition of this conclave, or the second. Second edition. Physically second. Otherwise, it is the third edition of this, fourth edition of this conclave. This is the fourth edition. And I wish to see that the scaling up happens and it becomes one of the important conclave for people to notice. I think we have started taking the right steps. Scaling it up is going to be very important because in the interest of your own objectives also, it's not only how intelligent you are and how knowledgeable you are, it's also more about how you are able to expose yourself and mold yourself. Organizing such conclaves, etc., will give you a lot of experiences by which you may be able to mold yourself and exhibit the right talents at the right time. So I hope that the student volunteers might have experienced that and how well we may be able to scale it up. That is going to be more important. And I should thank all the faculty who conceptualized this idea and started doing it. Now I would suggest that the students take more and more active participation on organizing such conclaves. More systematically, you can even have a calendar or something by which you may be able to think ahead, 6 months ahead or 8 months ahead, and then start planning it, so that we may be able to make this as one of the most important conclaves, not only in the calendar of IIFT, but also for the faculty and student fraternity, which is in economics, trade, finance, etc. So with that, I'm really thankful for the organizers who invite me. And I made it a point also to come because I felt very happy about the way in which the conclave has been organized in this edition. So probably you scale it up, and I would like to appreciate the student team. I think Ahana was more often meeting me about some of these things which are to be arranged. So the student team is just more and more energetic, and please put your
pass on this mandate to your juniors so that they may be able to scale up and do it in a better and a bigger way in the next year so that this conclave becomes more and more important for us, like the IIFT or the other conclaves of the MBA students, what they do. Okay, with that, I wish you all the best and thanks to the organizers and once again thanks to the faculty and the students for inviting me. Wish you all the best. Thank you.
I would request you to remain on stage as I would like to call upon GT to give a token of appreciation to Sir. Sir, please. Thank you, sir, for your encouraging words. We promise to put our best foot forward from the next conference. We now begin with the award ceremony. We are immensely proud of the 4 events that unfolded with resounding success, each leaving an indelible mark on the minds of all participants. We are also proud to share that nearly 200 students across the country participated in the conclave. The insightful panel discussions graced by our esteemed panelists from all corners of India have undoubtedly enriched our understanding and provided invaluable perspectives on the economic landscape of our nation. I would request all faculty members to please be on stage for the award distribution ceremony.
All of this result with the event.
We begin with the awards. The policy debate event was full of intense discussion and deliberation. We saw some excellent debaters from the debating circuit in Calcutta. The results of the policy debate are as follows. I would request all the winners to please come up on stage. The best team award goes to Shankhadeep Shome and Shubhecha Datta. A round of applause. The best speaker opposition goes to Rajas Kolhatkar. Please go. And the best speaker for motion goes to Shankhadeep Shome.
Do we go one more? Together?
First, I request Shankhadeep Shome and Shubhecha Datta to come to the stage. So since Shubhetsha is not here, Shankudeep will be collecting her award. The best speaker from the opposition is won by Rajas Kolhatkar. Rajesh is from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences and has travelled all the way from Mumbai to come here. We thank you for this. The best speaker for the motion again goes to Shankudeep Shome. Now we come to our next event, the economics quiz. The economics quiz witnessed some brilliant minds from all over Calcutta, and the quiz was hosted by three of our homegrown quiz masters, which proved to be an exciting and fun-filled event. We have a joint winner for the quiz competition, I'll start with the second position. So the second position goes to Team Ceteris Paribus, Orkodeep Dhar, Abhishek Banerjee, and Gaurav Kundu from the Heritage College. Now I would like to announce the winners of the quiz. The first position is jointly won by Orthish Banerjee and Omit Mitro from IIFT Kolkata. And Team Sikyo Shul, Krishti Banerjee, Onmoy Dey and Ushin Chakraborty from the University of Calcutta. Now we would like to present the awards for the paper presentation competition, where immaculate papers from students and researchers alike were presented on the theme of our conclave, the world in 2024 dynamics of gender, politics and economics. The results are as follows. Second runner-up is Orthita Mukhopadhyay, Anushtup Dey, Onnoy Dey and Ahana Mitra from University of Calcutta. The second prize goes to
First prize goes to Shubhapriya Chakraborty from Azim Premji University. Since she is not here, her prize will be collected by Unmesha Chakraborty. We extend a special mention to Shayandani Devdas, Siddhant Mukherjee, and Shaurya Basu for their paper was extremely well presented. Finally, we come to our flagship event, the simulation of the Model Lok Sabha. The Model Lok Sabha proved to be an outstanding platform for delegates to have a long and intense discussion on the interim budget 2024. We extend special thanks to our invited executive board, Speaker Ankit Kumar Singh and Deputy Speaker Prithviraj Bhattacharya from the Metropolitan University for their commitment and efforts to make this event successful. I would like to call the EB on stage for the award distribution.
Thank you so much, teachers and organizers, for having us on board for this remarkable committee. It was a lovely committee to chair and judged so many beginners, so many experienced individuals who brought their perspectives. Even though we had a crunch of time, because typically an NUN or Indian Committee simulation requires a minimum of 2 days to deliberate, but all the delegates did their level best and brought out the best debate which they could have in the limited time frame we had. So we'll begin with the announcement of awards. So Prithviraj will be announcing the verbal mentions, then there is an honorable mention, special mention. So Prithviraj will go ahead with the announcement of the verbal mentions.
Alright, we have 6 verbal mentions and they're in no particular order. Prahlad Joshi, everybody is requested to clap. Prahlad Joshi, Rahul Gandhi, Arjun Munda, Piyush Goyal, Dilip Ghosh, and Asaduddin Owaisi. Every verbal mention is requested to stand in their respective places. So they can come on stage. Okay, verbal mentions, please come on stage. You have to stand. Next, we'll be announcing the honorable mentions. Again, in no particular order. S. Jayashankar, Mahua Moitra, and Manish Tiwari. Everybody, please come on stage.
You can get down from the stage and write down.
There are two special mentions in no particular order. Shashi Tharoor, please come on the stage. The next special mention, Pinaki Mishra, please come on stage.
We don't know the names, right? She is also, she doesn't want to write in her
Next, the high commendations. There are two high commendations in a particular order. The second high commendation goes to AMRF. And the first high commendation goes to Amit Shah. So when it came to the next award, which is the top award of the committee, which is the Best Delegate Award, after looking at the entire mark sheet, after marking diligently, and as I mentioned the mark sheet, as I declared the last two awards, the mark sheet will be sent in the committee group and you can look at the mark sheet. So the top two awards had a bare minimum point difference where one person ended up getting 59.05 and the second person ended up getting 59.35. So a difference of 0.3 marks. So there was not really an order in which we could have given a best delegate. So we do not have a best delegate award. What we do have is a merit of leadership in this committee. So, and in no particular order, the merit of leadership goes to Nirmala Sitharaman. And before I announce the last award, the Calcutta Indian Circuit has been really a great place. Indian committees in the past 2 years have evolved in front of my eyes. It's my honor to be the first Secretary General of Jadavpur University Model from the Indian Committee group. And with this, I declare the last award for the last Indian Committee I'm chairing, at least in the coming next 1 or 2 years. The merit of leadership goes to Navakumar Saranga.
Yes, because we are joined.
Thank you so much, delegates. The mark sheet has been sent on the group. You can look at the mark sheet, and if you need any feedback or any reasoning why and where did you like, you can approach either me or Prithviraj, and we'll be happy to help you out. Thank you so much.
Before our esteemed executive board leaves the stage, I would like to give them a token of appreciation for their presence. Please give a round of applause for Prithviraj and Ankit. I request all the faculty members to be seated for the final commencement.
I will request Professor Koindila De, who was the coordinator of this entire work. I will ask her to say a few words before we close.
Yes, I am not officially supposed to close it. So that it's a students' event, they are going to close it. They have another vote of thanks event after this. But yes, thank you. It was a lovely two-day event. There have been some hookups. We have tried our best to iron it out. We take out learnings from this event and we not try to follow that in the next year. Thank you all the professors. Particular thanks to Rangarajan. He has been instrumental behind the conduct and organization of the conclave. Honestly, half of my work was actually very much smoothened out because of his presence. He has guided the students so very well that almost everything was in autopilot mode. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Professor Marjit, for taking out time and being here at the very last moment. We just wrote him at the very last moment. It's not very easy to get hold of him. And also all the speakers who have accepted to be a part of these sessions. I hope we will continue this journey in the coming years also. Thank you.
I would like to extend the warmest of thank you to the organizing committee members, whom I would like to call upon stage for a token of appreciation. First, we have Ahana Shrishti.
Yes. So the students will not get their awards all by themselves. So round of applause for the organizing team. So team to come on the stage. So first Ahana Shrishti. Yes. Yes. Urmesha. Rahul Sinha. The flag bearers now. Aditi. Oh, okay. Yes, from senior batch. Yes, Aditi. Aditi is here. Nandini. First year. Nirmala Sitharaman.
Yes. I was waiting for her because she is not very waiting.
The show is not complete without thanking Unmesh. Unmesh. Unmesh, wait for a photo with your organization.
उसको दे दो. क्यों क्या ऑर्गेनाइजिंग कमेटी कम यार फोटो देगी तो लेना ले लो ना इतना डिस्कशन किस बात है फोटोग्राफर खड़ा है आप लोग खड़े हैं आ जाओ ज्यादा हाइट है बोल के तो वो नीचे चले जाएगा आई मुझे देख आप आया देखो हाँ
Okay, ready?
Thank you.
Congratulations to all the award winners as well as those who participated. Your participation truly made the conclave vibrant. As we bring the conclave to an end, we would like to thank the people without whom we could not have brought this conclave to life. The Director of Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, Dr. Satinder Bhatia, and the Registrar, the Center Head, IIFT Kolkata Campus, Dr. K. Rangarajan, the Assistant Registrar, Mr. Vinay Goyal, for his administrative support for the conclave, without which the event would not have been possible, and the speakers who graced the conclave with their casting. I would like to formally thank the convener of the conclave, Dr. Goindala Dey, whose vision, leadership, and unwavering commitment have been the driving force behind the success of our conclave. Your guidance and passion have inspired us all and laid the foundation for what promises to be a memorable and impactful event. Next, I would like to thank Atul sir and the entire IT team for their support. The housekeeping staff for helping us ensure everything is in place by working even on the holidays. The mess and canteen staff for helping with our food requirements. A heartfelt gratitude to all the participants who have made this conclave an even bigger success. I look forward to seeing you all to our campus for other student activities in the future. Thank you to all the volunteers for their support and ensuring the conclave ties up together in the end. Special mention to Shatovi, Ronanjan, Devanika, Tanmoy, Anushka, Saptarshi, Saptarji, Kinder, Koshubi, Dikha, Polovi, Anjali, and our wonderful design team, Obinu, Shreya, Daksh, and Adya. I would also like to thank the senior volunteers, Kochish and Amit, and among others who made this conclave possible. We would also like to thank our senior volunteers, Latika, Asmita, Sanchita, Pranay, Kushal, Dhruv, Ankur, Pooja, and all the other volunteers who had supported us throughout the Thank you for being here at the IIFT Economics Conclave 2024. We hope to see you again. And with this, we end the valedictory session.